Here we have a SAT math question. Okay, let's go with the information. There are 50 questions on a quiz given to a class of students. Only 20% of the class answered all the questions on the quiz. Of the remaining students, half answered 2/5 of the questions and the other half answered 3/5. What was the average number of questions answered on this quiz? Okay, now first let me write some stuff to find the average number of questions answered on this quiz. Okay, to get average number of questions answered per student, what I have to do is I have to divide the total number of questions answered by all the students by number of students. Okay, if I want to use a formula to get average number of questions answered, I must be knowing the number of students in the class. But that is not given in the question. So since the number of students in the class is not given, we can assume some variable for that one. That is, say that number of students in the class equals to X. Okay, so according to the information, in this X number of students in the class, 20% of the student answered all the questions on the quiz. So let's find 20% of this X. Let me do the calculation over here. 20% of X equals to 20% can be written as 20 over 100, and this YF of can be written as times X. So 20 goes into 21 times, 20 goes into 100 5 times, we get 1/5 X. So 20% of X equals to 1/5 X. Let me write the stuff over here, 1/5 X. Okay, so the remaining is 4/5 X. Now, what we have to do is we have to split up this quantity 4/5 X into two equal parts, because apart from the 20% of the class, the remaining students half answered 2/5 and the remaining half answered 3/5. So that is, if I split up this quantity into two equal parts, the first part will be 2/5 X and the remaining half is going to be again 2/5 X. So when I add all these three quantities, it must be equal to X. So when I add all of them, I'm getting X. Okay, now, so each of these 1/5 of X students, that is 20% of students, answered all the 50 questions of the quiz. Each of these 2/5 X students answered 2/5 of the question. So we have to calculate 2/5 of the 50 questions. Let me do this calculation. 2/5 times 50. So 5 goes into 5 one times, 5 goes into 50 10 times 20. That is, each of these 2/5 X of the students answered 20 questions. Now, the remaining of, that is, these 2/5 X of the students answered 3/5 of the question. Let's calculate 3/5 of 50, that is 3 over 5 times 50. 5 goes into 5 one times, 5 goes into 50 10 times, 3 times 10 is 30. That is, each of these 2/5 X students answered 30 questions. Okay, now let's find the total number of questions answered. For that, what I have done is I have to multiply. So the number of students and the number of questions answered by each students. So 1/5 X times 50. So this represents the number of students, 20% of the class students, and multiplied by number of questions answered by each students. It gives the total number of questions answered by the 20% of the class. That means 1/5 X of the students. Now, each of these 2/5 X students answered 20 questions. Okay, to find the total number of questions answered by these 2/5 X students, we have to multiply the number of students by the number of questions answered by each students. So positive 2/5 X times 20. So the same thing. So each of these 2/5 X students answered 30 questions. So to get the total number of questions answered by these 2/5 X students, we have to multiply the number of students and number of questions answered by each students. Then we get 2/5 X times 30, and now we have to divide. So this expression gives the total number of questions answered. It has to be divided by the number of students. We have assumed the number of students as X. Okay, here 5 goes into 5 one times, 5 goes into 50 10 times. So here 5 goes into 5 one times, 5 goes into 24 times. Here 5 goes into 5 one times and 5 goes into 36 times. So 1 times X is X, X times 10 is 10X, positive. 2 times X is 2X, 2X times 4 is 8X, positive. 2 times X is 2X, 2X times 6 is 12X over X. Okay, now when I add 10X, 8X, 12X, I'm getting 30X over X. This X will cancel out, I'm getting 30. So therefore, the average number of questions answered on this quiz per student is 30.